It's 5:30, and I'll call this city council meeting to order. It's 5:30, and I'll call our city council meeting to order. Thank you very much. I have asked or invited Ed Ditforth, the pastor at Cornerstone Church, to both give our Pledge of Allegiance and our invocation tonight.
If you're able, please stand with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. Would you pray with me? Father in heaven, as we look ahead to Veterans Day and Thanksgiving, we just want to say thank you that we live in the home of the free because of the brave. As we look around, we want to say thank you for the rain that has fallen on our county and our town. And we ask you, Lord, to so touch this town that we become a city of champions. As we look to the future, I pray that you give this group, both staff and council alike, wisdom and grace to embrace a new vision and yet hold to the values and culture that have made us who we are. I pray, Lord, that our greatest contribution in the future won't be championships and gold buckles, but it will be the young people that we produce, a true city of champions, and that they will be world changers. And whether they're at home or wherever their destiny takes them, that it will be that their lives were marked for the good because they grew up here. Make us a leadership pipeline that can change the world around us. Give this meeting your grace and help, we pray. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Ed. First thing we have is Dr. Danette Evans is here. She has a new service she's brought to town. She called me the day we visited about it. I encourage her to come tell what you've brought to serve the citizens of Stephenville.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for allowing me to come and visit with you all. I have a very brief presentation. Thank you for the invitation, Mayor Sveen. So in trying to make sure that accessibility to healthcare is addressed for our community, we have always tried to look at what services we have and what services we don't have. And so I am over in Cross Timbers Imaging. It's an imaging center, outpatient imaging center across the street from the hospital. And we started it in 2016, initially with just a few services, and we've added on as we've gone. I ran into Major Sveen at a community event, and I was telling him about the latest service and why I was so excited about it. So if you could go to the next slide, please. You know, the City of Champions, Stephenville, is a wonderful place to live. It's a great place to have a family. Being in a small town, there are some things that are not so good about being in a rural setting. Both the CDC and the American Heart Association have shown studies that show that people in small towns don't live as long as people in the cities, that we have a greater risk of succumbing to heart disease, cancer, unintentional injury, chronic respiratory disease, and stroke, and that rural Americans actually have a 30% increased risk of stroke, 40% increased risk of heart disease, and on average live 3 years less than our urban counterparts. Part of that is accessibility to adequate health care. Next, please. So in order to try to address heart disease particularly, because that is a huge problem nationally as well as in the rural and urban settings, myself and the physicians from the community were talking about the need for cardiac imaging. So that is what we have brought to Cross Timbers Imaging. The amount of money that is spent on just heart disease alone outspends the amount that we spend for the treatment of all cancers and chronic respiratory disease. So it's a huge amount. And it's something that, if found at an earlier stage, really is impactful for everybody's health and well-being. Routinely, heart disease isn't found until an event occurs, and then it's a big event. So to be able to identify it at an earlier stage is a huge benefit. Next, please. So providers use different tests to try to figure out overall risk for heart disease for individuals, to try to establish whether or not an additional test is needed. There are risk factors that you can't change, like your age, right? Your ethnicity, your sex. But there are risk factors that you can help, such as getting enough rest, having a good diet, exercise, controlling your blood sugars, weight, lipids, your blood pressure, and not smoking. But all those risk factors can be put together into a tool that allows a physician, a provider, to come up with an overall health risk for somebody. And it stratifies, as you see on the slide. Surprisingly, a 20% risk is actually considered high risk for cardiovascular disease. So it's a barometer that's used to try to establish where things are. Next, please. Because heart disease is so prevalent, and especially in our area, we brought new technology to Cross Timbers Imaging. Next, please. So the technology, because we're imaging a structure that is moving and we're imaging vessels that are very small on that thing that's moving, it requires a very special exam, one that is fast, that is very accurate, and has special things about it that make it very safe for the patient. Next, please. The scan is able to do something that probably a lot of you have heard about, maybe, called coronary calcium scoring. That is a tool that's used for somebody who doesn't have any kind of chest symptoms, no heart disease symptoms, but they have a risk factor, whether it's a high lipid, hypertension, family history. Any of those things in a 40 to 70-year-old might be just enough reason to see about a coronary calcium score. The coronary calcium score looks at the blood vessels of the heart and looks specifically at calcified plaque. There's more than just calcified plaque that can be significant in heart disease, but that's able to establish with good data whether or not there's increased risk for that person to have a cardiac event by just getting that score. So basically it takes pictures of the heart, we add up how much calcium there is, and we give you a score. If it's less than 100, things are good, and then it stratifies above that. Next, please. The next step is if we actually need to see the vessels. And so now I can take pictures that look just like that little scrolly thing right there, where we can actually see the vessels that feed the heart and whether or not those vessels have narrowing from either calcified or non-calcified plaque, establish how much narrowing there is, and whether or not that heart is at risk for ischemia, which is a heart attack if it's not addressed. Next, please. So that is a new screening scan that's available here in town. I hope that it will make a big difference for our community. I think it will be a big game changer for a lot of families. And I am so appreciative of you allowing me to come and present the information to you. We do have some other screening studies that we offer there as well. For people who have smoked for a long time, we offer CT screening exams for lung cancer. Next, please. We also offer something called DEXA, which is an exam that measures bone density to look for bone loss. Trying to establish if there is bone being lost in a bone is very helpful because you can treat it before it ends up as a fracture. Next, please. And of course, mammography, which is near and dear to my heart. So we have a full line of breast imaging services at Cross Timbers Imaging, from the screening exam to in-house breast MRI, ultrasound, something called contrast-enhanced mammography, all services that are not available just everywhere. Next, please. So really appreciate your time, and thank you again for your attention.
We appreciate your investment in the city of Stephenville and our community, in the service you've given us all these years, and thank you for the investment that you've put into this product. Thank you all very much.
Thanks.
I think there's some stuff over on the side. If you want to pick up some things over here afterwards, you're welcome to do that. And so, thank you again. Next item is we have a proclamation, and it's recognizing Municipal Court Week. I want to read the proclamation. Whereas municipal courts play a significant role in preserving public safety and promoting quality of life in Texas, and whereas more people come in contact with the municipal courts than all other Texas courts combined, and public impression of the Texas judicial system is largely dependent on the public's experience in the municipal court. Whereas the City of Stephenville has hosted the City of Stephenville Municipal Court since 2019, whereas the state law authorizes a municipality to either appoint or elect a municipal judge for a term of office, the City of Stephenville Municipal Court is a state court, and its judges are members of the state judiciary. Whereas the procedures for the City of Stephenville Municipal Court operations are set forth in the Texas Code of Criminal Procedure and other laws of the state of Texas. Whereas the City of Stephenville is committed to the notion that our legal system is based on the principle that an independent, fair, and competent judiciary will interpret and apply the laws that govern us, and that judges and court personnel should comply with the law and act in a manner that promotes public confidence in the integrity and impartiality of the judiciary. And whereas the City of Stephenville municipal judges are not policymakers for the City of Stephenville, but are bound by the law and the canons of judicial conduct, and are required to make decisions independent of the governing body of the City of Stephenville, city officials, and employees. And whereas the City Council recognizes that the Constitution and laws of the state of Texas contain procedural safeguards in criminal cases for all defendants, including indigent defendants, and supports the City of Stephenville Municipal Court in complying with such legal requirements. Therefore, I, Doug Sveen, Mayor of Stephenville, Texas, do proclaim the first week of November as Municipal Courts Week in the City of Stephenville. And I encourage residents to recognize the fair and impartial justice offered to our citizens by the Municipal Court of Stephenville, Texas.
Mayor,
Shelby is actually here.
Judge Bass and Shelby Kibler are here.
Where are they? I didn't see them come in. Where's Shelby? Go on in. Thank you very much for your service. Judge, I just want to make sure that you hold Dan Harris in line when he's in court. Okay, next item is our public comments from the citizenry. And I have one comment tonight under a general discussion, and that's Bruce DeLater. Bruce, if you'll give your name, address, and you'll have 3 minutes. You see the clock on the wall, or on the screen.
Evening, Council and Mayor. My name is Bruce DeLater. My address is 1595 Glenwood. Like most everybody else, on Friday afternoon, I received a copy of the agenda for tonight's meeting, and I looked through it, and I was appalled to find that any liberty-loving Texan would even put up item 3 for consideration. This is a device in widespread use by totalitarians, not by freedom-loving people. Mistrust in government is at an all-time high in this country, and I would hate to see that same level of distrust in our local government, but this is a good way to engender it. I do know that if you approve this, George Orwell's Big Brother will be very proud of you, but I can't think of a single citizen of Stephenville that would be.
Thank you, sir. We'll go on to the regular agenda now. And the first item is to consider approval of the acceptance of the annual comprehensive financial report for the period ending September 30th, 2023.
Good evening, everyone. So I'm going to just read through this 150-page document
If
for
you'll
you guys.
introduce yourself first, so everybody out here doesn't know you.
My name is Kim Knox-Lewis, and I'm a partner at BMY, and I was honored to perform your fiscal audit for the year ended September 30th, 2023. I want to thank council for allowing us the opportunity to do your audit, and I also want to thank Monica and her team for helping us complete the audit. This is a 150-page document, so I have prepared some audit highlights. So I'm going to go through those, and then I've included page references, page numbers of where that specific item is in here if you'd like to see more information about it, and I'm happy to answer questions as well. I don't plan on reading numbers to you guys because I assume that all of you can. So again, if you want more information, let me know. So I'm going to start with the results. So you did receive an unqualified opinion, which is the highest level of assurance that we can give. That means there are no material uncorrected misstatements in your financial statements. There were some internal control deficiencies that we identified. Those are detailed there on page 127. We were also able to issue an unqualified opinion on compliance and internal controls over compliance in relation to the federal and state single audits that we performed this year. There were a couple new accounting standards that were effective during 2023. Those included GASB 87 as it relates to leases, so it just changed a little bit of the way you account for your leases at the city. It means you have to record your liability up front for all future lease payments and an asset that relates to that and recognize that over the term of the lease, where previously you were able to just expense those as you pay them. The same is true for subscription-based information technology arrangements, which is a fancy word for subscriptions to software. So if you have any of that, for example, for body cameras or any accounting software you use, same idea as the leases. You recognize all of those payments as a liability up front and recognize those over the term of the agreement. The last one is related to GASB 94 as it relates to public-private partnerships. So if there are assets owned by the city that are operated by a third party, those assets are recognized on the city's books. So there's some special accounting considerations there. Again, there's more details at those page number references. Also, I won't go over the upcoming accounting standards, just to highlight them for you here. There are 2 new ones that will be effective for fiscal year 2024, so just for your consideration, knowing how that might impact your financials. We did have a couple of prior period adjustments, which just means we have changed some financial information as you've seen in the past. So I've highlighted those. There were some change in accounting principles, which mainly was GASB 96 related to those software subscriptions. We did go ahead and defer the ARPA proceeds that you received, so that money had previously been recognized as revenue in previous years, and we just go ahead and defer that so that the revenue matches when you're spending the money. So that it's kind of the matching principle in accounting. You recognize the revenue as you're spending it. So we put a lot of that on your balance sheet, and you'll recognize it as you spend it on the related project. And then we also implemented GASB 87. So there was one change in estimate related to the landfill assets. So because of the capacity on the landfill, we did go ahead and accelerate some of the depreciation on the assets there at the landfill. So any questions on any of that?
Anybody have any questions for Kim? We've been hearing about it for a long time. Monica, you'll make a comment? That's what auditors always want to hear at the end of an audit.
Well, it's better than when I arrive and people just kind of scowl at me. So I did get a warm greeting, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, Monica's a pretty good girl. I don't care what everybody else says, she's all right.
She is. We enjoyed working with her.
I would like to make a comment. When we sat through the exit audit, we were told that Monica we had a good one, which we already knew, but we got lots of compliments on the way Monica provided everything. So thank you very much, Monica.
Appreciate
Yes.
you. Any other questions? I guess now we have to make a motion to accept the final report. Is that correct, or we do not? We have to do that. We have to accept the report, okay. Do I hear a motion to accept the report as presented?
Mr. Mayor, I make the motion that we accept the financial report as presented.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you very much for your help.
Thank you.
Next item is approval of a cyber security infrastructure security agency for the network vulnerability scanning services. Whew, that's a long one. You want to take that one?
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, council, this is a program that has started with the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Federal Agency that allows us to partner with them where they can work with our IT staff to work on making sure that we decrease our vulnerabilities to hackers and things like that. So we're just asking for approval for staff to enter into an agreement.
Does that mean on that annual training we have to go through is going to be another hour long now?
That's a state level thing.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Jason? Hearing none, do I hear a motion to approve the agreement with Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency for network vulnerability scanning services?
So moved, Mayor.
Have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Approval of purchase agreement for 6 Flock Safety Stationary License Plate Readers. I guess that's
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, distinguished members of the council, I'm asking you to approve tonight the purchase agreement for 6 Flock Safety license plate readers. This is a 2-year contract, including installation and maintenance. This is also part of the 2024-2025 budget approved item. This is a joint project with the Erath County law enforcement agencies and part of our ultimate goal for the Erath County Joint Dispatch Center as part of real-time crime analysis. A proactive approach that will empower us to stay a step ahead of the criminal element that chooses to partake of their crimes inside the city of Stephenville and Erath County. Last year, with your approval last year, we activated this service in all police cars that operate an Axon camera in partnership with Flocks. And that has significantly and successfully made life safer in this city and reduced crime. And there's multiple events I can talk to you about if you would like regarding this past year with those mobile cameras in our vehicles. This year's enhancement, again, will greatly improve officer safety and reduce crime in a holistic approach. And lastly, our ability to solve crimes much faster with this technology. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Questions for the chief? Hearing none, do I hear a motion?
Mayor, I make the motion to approve the purchase as presented of the Flock stationary license plate reader.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next item.
Sure. Mr. Mayor, distinguished members of the council, I am asking for you to approve the purchase agreement with Axon Corporation for the upgrade to our TASER 10 model, which is the latest model. Our current TASER X2 is a current model that is no longer supported, both technology and parts and et cetera related to that. We're several generations behind. The current one has served us well, but we have outlived the TASER I have on my belt. The new contract is a 5-year contract, which is also part of the 2024-2025 approved budget. And I am happy to answer any questions related to TASER. In your packet, it talks about, the TASER 10 talks about the increased safety. This device has saved our officers' lives. It has we have been able to not have to utilize deadly force on at least 5 different occasions where we deployed our current TASER in 2024. And the TASER 10 has a longer distance. I was just in a conference where we spent some additional time going on that, 45 feet distance. So those who are mentally disturbed, watched multiple videos around the country, those who've already deployed it, we're about a year behind the release of this TASER 10, but we believe we'll get 10 to 15 years out of it, depending on how fast technology surpasses it. But the ability to take an individual safely into custody at that distance, and the examples that I used were observed were multiple individuals with knives. And so where we don't want to be close to them as they're armed with knives. So again, there's a little bit more information in the staff report that talks about the benefits related to that. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for the chief?
Chief, will this is another tool
Yes, sir.
that y'all use
Correct.
to not only protect the public, but to protect the officers on scene.
That's correct.
And this is a much more pleasant and better option than the use of deadly force, correct?
Immensely. Yes, sir.
So it's
Unbelievably.
it's a tool that is necessary. It's a huge improvement from where we used to be. And I go back too far, but I go back to the nightstick days. But you
That
had to
was
get
my start 34 years ago. Yes, sir.
We had to go back, you had to go very close to be able to use that, but this provides an advantage to the officer when he
Correct.
sees a situation that he does not have to get within arm's reach of a suspect or a potential harmful person for him or someone else in the community.
Yes, sir.
You and I spoke about this. I think you
Correct.
said the current units that y'all are using are 20 years old?
I misspoke a little bit when I was talking to you, between 10 and 15.
Okay.
Yes, sir. But
And-
we're several generations behind. It's served us well and it's done great, but it's reached its life capacity.
Okay.
And so my concern is, if we don't go forward with this, that it may not work, should I have to pull it or one of our officers have to pull it off our belt, that we could be in a situation like that.
That's one of those things you want to work first time every time.
Correct, and the new and latest model allows 5 deployments at 45 feet, but it only connects 2, the best 2, but we only have 2 deployments on our belt currently.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Other questions?
Chief, now the annual cost on this is $39,000, pretty close to $40,000.
Yes, sir.
And we're talking about a 5-year commitment here on this, right?
Right, till we satisfy the monetary requirement, but they will last longer than that.
Understand.
Yes, sir.
So we may get 10 years out of them,
Correct.
or may get 15 years, or whenever the new technology comes out.
We believe at a minimum of a 10,
Okay,
based on our history with this company,
okay,
which goes back since the evolution of it.
thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anybody else? Do I hear a motion?
Mayor, I make the motion to approve the purchase of the TASER X2, no, I'm sorry, TASER 10 model. We don't want to purchase any more of the
We can't do
X2.
that anymore.
We want to purchase the TASER 10 model for the department at an annual cost of $39,871.76 over the next 5 years.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Alan, just out of curiosity, did you get to know that stick?
Sir?
Did you ever get to experience that stick?
No, sir, thank
Okay.
you.
I was curious. You act like you had experience with it.
I've seen it.
Oh, okay, okay.
He heard the whistle.
There you go. Next item is consider resolution authorizing application for funding for the 25-26 Texas Community Development Block Grant. Mr. Williams.
Yes, sir. Mayor, Council, thank you. The Texas Department of Agriculture has a annual Community Development Block Grant program which focuses on infrastructure improvements in areas identified by the feds as low and moderate income. This year's maximum award is $750,000. It does have a 15% match. That's $112,500. Let me back up. I said this year. The next available program is 25-26 year. That match, again, $112,500 is no risk because if the city submits an application and receives it, an award, it does not have to accept the award.
We'll take it.
I sure hope so. The deadline to submit this application is December 8th, and so we're just simply asking for authorization to submit an application.
Questions for Nick? We'll take every free dollar we can get.
Amen. Yes, sir.
Do I have a motion?
Mayor, I'd make the motion to approve Resolution 2024 R12, authorizing the submission of a Texas Community Development Block Grant application.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next item, consider approval of a landfill dozer repair.
Yes, sir.
Why
So.
don't you give us an update at the same time about our application too?
On
Why we
October-
need that repair.
We do. October 21st, we had one of our 2 landfill dozers go down. So we have 2 dozers. One of those was away for routine repairs for the track and undercarriage, and we had a dozer that became inoperable. So we immediately called Holt Cat out of Cleburne, Texas. They responded and diagnosed it as a cracked head. So they were able to locate a single one across the northern half of the United States. We did acquire that and set it aside. Thank you, Holt Cat. And we have, that engine did actually arrive on site yesterday. What we're asking for is approval of that emergency purchase. It was $63,822.16. That's a big hit to our $100,000 annual landfill maintenance budget. But I did visit with our unqualified opinion award-winning finance department that assures me that we do have reserves available. Should we
Who
go?
happened to be the person?
Monica Harris. I don't know if you met her or not.
Monica
She's
Harris.
fantastic. She takes care of all of us.
I'm sorry, Monica.
That replacement engine does have a 3-year, 5,000-hour warranty on it, and we've already had mechanics there disassembling our existing dozer to make those repairs just as quickly as possible.
Questions for Nick? Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I make the motion that we approve the landfill dozer repair in the amount of $63,822.16.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. You are gonna update us soon on the application for the landfill. right?
Absolutely, yes, sir.
Is it looking good?
It's looking better than it has before, yes,
There
sir.
you go. If we don't, we may not need that dozer much longer. All right, next item is consider approval of speed zone ordinance. I'll turn that over to Jason.
Mr. Mayor, council, some months ago, Mayor Sabine and Judge Huckabee, we worked with TxDOT to request a speed review of 281 on the northern edge of the city and out to the Cheese Plant Road area with all the development that's occurred and more that's coming and some of the accidents. And so for the city portion, which is the red light at FM 8 and 281, back to where it drops down to 45 if you're coming in town, so about halfway down Mill Road. TxDOT said it warranted a reduction from 60 to 50 miles an hour, plus your and so to go along with that, within the city limits, when they change the speed limits inside the city, TxDOT always asks for a supporting ordinance from the city council to agree with that change. And so they have done what we asked them to do. And so we would request the council approve this ordinance.
Questions?
So where does it drop down? Road to
I
the red
I
light?
have not been able to talk to the judge. I don't know what's happened north of FM 8, so this would be from that FM 8 area back to where it currently drops to 45, so about halfway
Okay.
on in.
Other questions? Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the speed zone ordinance 2024-030.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Just want to also mention that here in Granbury lately, we've also met with them about the accidents. The judge and I and Jason met with them about that. And they have started some great improvements going that direction, turn lanes, et cetera. So it's a good thing. I appreciate them. Okay, we're going to move one agenda item, item 15. We're going to move up to the first area of Planning and Zoning Commission. So we have some people who want to speak to us, so I'll call them up here in a minute. Steve. Did I throw you for a loop, or did you know I was going to do that?
I did not know, Mayor, but that's fine.
That's
I
what's
can
on
catch
the
up with you
computer.
here.
That's what that Dell's for.
Yes, sir. I should have been better prepared for that. It's a
You can put it on Jason.
Great idea. Which one did he move up? 15?
Okay. But he said 15. Which one did you move up, Mayor?
Is it 15?
You said
17.
15, I think.
I think 17 is the one.
I must have.
18.
Which one is it?
17.
17. Okay, item 17.
17, okay, excuse me.
So we're looking at the
Overlay.
historic
I circled the
overlay.
wrong one.
All right.
You're using the wrong hand.
That's true.
That's the problem.
I
We
need to
can't
have
find
that imaging done.
it. Okay, I caught up with you
We're
now.
both
Sorry
over
about that.
70 now.
Mayor, Council, tonight we're asking the consideration of a proposed historic district ordinance. You will recall on September 17th, the Development Services Committee asked that this ordinance, a proposed ordinance, be assigned to the Planning and Zoning Commission for a public hearing and a recommendation back to the City Council. The Planning and Zoning Commission met on October 16th and by a vote of 6-1 recommended that the City Council deny or reject the proposed ordinance. You might recall I was not able to attend that P&Z meeting, but I was watching it online, so thank you to the city manager for handling that meeting and navigating the discussion. Just to mention some of the highlights for the proposed ordinance and a little bit of background, this was brought to city staff by some community members based on some previous studies that the city had acquired regarding our downtown, and they had some ideas on what they felt the city should be considering, and they proposed this historic district ordinance, which is authorized by Local Government Code, Chapter 211. Staff was assigned to review this and worked very closely with the city attorney in reviewing their proposal and then putting something together that that group and city staff agreed to bring forward to the council for consideration. So some of the highlights: it is authorized by Chapter 211 of the Local Government Code. It's to protect the historic and cultural heritage of our downtown. This ordinance, if it were to be approved, would establish a Historic Preservation Commission, and that commission would be charged with overseeing applications for a certificate of appropriateness for any type of repair or renovation that would occur to a building that is forward-facing a street in the downtown district now, or a historic district overlay. Now, that overlay does not exist yet, so if the ordinance was adopted and the HPC, Historic Preservation Commission, were appointed, then their first meeting would be to establish that district, recommend that district to City Council, and then also present some guidelines on how that committee would, or commission would be governed through the guidelines that would be adopted by City Council. The commission would be required to act on a certificate of appropriateness within 30 days of application, and the decision of the Preservation Committee could be appealed to City Council. Work being performed without a certificate of appropriateness or not in compliance with the certificate of appropriateness would be subject to a stop work order by the city. This would not apply to ordinary maintenance or repair, and it would be an offense if the ordinance was adopted to proceed with work without a certificate of appropriateness. The proposed guidelines, one thing to mention also would establish a vacant building registration requirement. And that registration requirement would be for any building that was vacant over 90 days, be required to have a insurance policy up to $100,000 or $100,000 coverage. And so with that, Mayor and Council, be glad to answer any questions. There's a lot of detail to this that I just kind of touched upon. I'm sure you have a lot of questions, and I'll be glad to try to answer those as best I can. One thing I did fail to mention is once the commission establishes the historic district overlay and the council adopts that, the first meeting of the Preservation Committee would also give persons owning property in that district the ability to opt out. That option or request to opt out of the district and the guidelines under this draft ordinance would be subject to review by the HPC. If the HPC voted to overturn that request by 75%, it would then come to council. If the council also if the council also voted at 75% to overturn that request, then that property would be forced into the district through the unanimous, or those votes by both the governing body and the commission. So be glad to answer any questions. Thank
Questions
you.
for Steve?
Steve, just a clarification, we're all looking here, and audience is looking at a map, and the map was sent out, and it was sent out to every property owner within that yellow area, and 200 feet outside of that area.
Yes, sir.
That is, and that's because it was the original historic district designation by the Interior Department, correct?
That is correct.
That is not necessarily what the, this particular district would be, because that's got to be decided by the HPC, correct?
That is
And then by
correct.
the council.
Yes, sir. Thank you for
So
asking
that
that
might
question.
be just the, strictly around the courthouse, or maybe the square, it might be a block in addition to that, or it might be the whole thing. I mean, that's a decision that has to be made in the future, correct?
That is correct, and thanks for asking that question. This map is what the council and the Development Services Committee recommended or required staff to use when we sent notice out regarding the public hearings. And the reason being is that we don't believe that the district would be any larger than that. And then we also went 200 feet outside of the boundaries of that particular district, just to make sure we were capturing everyone that would have property in what we believe may end up being the historic overlay district. We envision it would be much smaller than that. I believe we sent out 149 notices for that particular area. And again, we would anticipate that being a much smaller area once it went through HPC.
And to follow on with another question, we have received several letters, some for it, some against it. There was, most of us heard it at the Planning and Zoning Commission. Also, there was some, it seemed like confusion with regard to exactly what it would apply to with regard to ownership on the buildings, i.e., that I believe the ordinance says it only applies to changes in the exterior of facing streets, correct?
That's correct.
It does not include any interiors or side buildings unless they're facing a street. Is that correct?
That's correct. Any facade that's facing the street would apply to that.
And would need to have a certificate of appropriateness.
That's correct. And then, as another point of clarification, this would not necessarily be retroactive to buildings that have already been renovated.
That was my next
It would
question.
be
It
for
can't be
properties that-
retroactive to anything. It has to,
That's-
anything that's there existing stays there existing.
That's correct. It would be
Unless
for-
they want to change, unless the property owner wants to, change it somehow.
Correct. It would be, from
major
this point
change.
forward, for any renovation that is street-facing facade.
And it doesn't affect windows, doors, that, somebody breaks out a door or window or something like that. That's typically just maintenance, general maintenance. Is that correct?
The ordinance refers to that as in-kind repairs, and in-kind repairs are not, doesn't apply to in-kind repairs.
Okay.
Routine maintenance.
Okay.
Other questions?
Yes. So if a building sold, would the new owner then be required to go under these guidelines? Or change ownership?
If the new owner moved forward with some type of renovation to the building on a facade facing the street, then that new building owner would be subject to this ordinance if it were adopted.
How many of our current street-facing buildings would be violators of this?
Well, as this is currently written, no one would be a violator.
Not retroactively, but going forward. If they were sold and somebody came in to make any kind of upgrades to the building.
So each person wanting to make a renovation would be required to submit a certificate of appropriateness, and they would have to work within the confines of that certificate of appropriateness. But let's use an example that would not be applicable. If you chose to paint your building a certain color, then the guidelines that have been explored to date limit your paint colors to a certain color palette, the historic palette, through 2 different paint companies, and there are some exceptions to that as well. So if you presented a color that didn't match what the guideline requires, then your COA, your certificate of appropriateness, would likely be denied.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Thank you, sir. And at this point, we'll enter into a public hearing to discuss the historical overlay. I have 3 people who want to speak, and I'll call them up. If anybody else wants to, be sure to give me a notice right away. One is Jan. You're gonna have to pronounce your last name. Come on. Remember when you came up from Austin?
Hey, it's been a while, man.
It's been a while. We appreciate what you do downtown.
Thank you. Mayor, council, thank you guys. I wasn't really planning on speaking, but I'm gonna go ahead and do it anyways. I'm just gonna kind of read what I have written down real quickly, because otherwise I'm gonna go off on a tangent and we don't have time for that.
Yes, sir, didn't like that.
Yeah, exactly. I think we can all agree that we want a busier, more beautiful downtown area. I don't think that's in question. Obviously, how we get there is in question, and what we want to do to make that happen is in question. Currently, we are not in favor for the historical overlay as it's currently proposed. We feel it's a little too vague, and especially with the committee part of it, we don't know what all authority they will have and what exactly they'll be able to deny, approve, anything. So as it is written, it's hard for us to approve something that we don't know what they're gonna be able to tell us that we can and cannot do. As a small business owner, I mean, we're very specific on the vision that we have for our business, the way it looks, the way the atmosphere is. everything. I mean, with the amount of time, money, effort that we put into this, we want to see our vision come into fruition and not have a random committee tell us whether or not we can do something. I mean, I feel like with what we're bringing to the table and wanting to do something in Stephenville, that we should be able to do that on our own merit and hope that it's accepted by the community. In the planning and zoning meeting, this was kind of proposed more under the guise of this was going to create more foot traffic downtown, it was going to bring more people into town. With a lot of towns being rattled off, I mean, there's plenty of these ordinances and overlays and all these things in tons of different cities. This isn't something new, this isn't something that was just came out of nowhere. Tons of places have this. I think the issue is the thought that this will bring more people to Stephenville. I would say Granbury, our closest one. The reason people go to Granbury is not for a historic overlay. They go because food, drinks, entertainment, and the overall welcoming vibe of downtown in Granbury. I think there's a lot more practical and productive things that we can do to make downtown better, more accessible, more inviting to people. I think we should be incentivizing businesses to come here instead of putting things in place that will deter them from wanting to open a business here. We already have to jump through so many hoops and all this to get our businesses off the ground and open, that one more thing might be the thing that keeps somebody from opening a business here in town. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next person, Jim Coates. Jim, if you'll give your name and address. I think everybody knows you, but just in case. You've been around here a
128
while.
South Belknap. You'll have to excuse my voice. It's leaving me today. 160 College, 117 and 119 Graham. I'm against the ordinance because I feel the ordinance isn't complete. They're asking you to approve an ordinance that they can't tell you what the rules are. Nobody wants their building to be worth less than what it's worth. Everybody wants to appreciate the property. And businesses know what they need to look like in order to function the way they need to function. Their business is different from mine. Luckily, I have 3 vintage buildings and one that we've made look that way. That's just the style we wanted. But everybody's not that style. And if you just look at the city and the square, there aren't very many buildings that fit into the same little thing that mine do. Mine look historic, some of them don't, but they have the right to be what they are. And they have enough sense to make their building look like what they want it to look like. I ask you to vote against the ordinance. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Last one we have is Brady Pendleton.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Brady Pendleton, 570 West Long, Stephenville. A couple things I want to hit on. First of all, I think it's kind of preposterous. I know we discussed about it in the P&Z that it is anticipated this to be sold as kind of a separate package, and that meaning the ordinance and then what the proposed guidelines that have been presented. I think Jim's exactly right, as he just mentioned, that it's probably incomplete. How do we know what the rules are when we haven't established the rules? I think all you're simply going to do if you propose this proposed ordinance is passed is that you're just going to make it become a free-for-all for an opportunity for a select group of citizens who don't really have skin and interest in the game to determine what the rules are going to be and what our downtown should look like. When I first came on the council in 2012, and as you guys can testify to as well, you know, it's always, I think, an initial goal of every council to determine we want to incentivize downtown, we want to grow downtown, we want downtown to be better than what it was. And I'll tell you, by God, if you think back what's happened over the past 10, 12, 14 years, it has gotten better. And it hadn't gotten better because of the government's role. I appreciate the city coming in. I think one of the last things I did on the council was we agreed to fund the light poles. No doubt that's been a tremendous asset to our community, but there's so much more that the government can be doing down here in Stephenville versus telling me how I can paint my buildings or I can't paint my buildings. And I think that's where the line's drawn. I can't think of a better way and a better day to have this conversation than on election day. I don't see that this is the role of government to come tell me how I'm going to manage and run my businesses. Y'all go figure out how you're going to go maintain your medians, figure out how you're going to go maintain your sidewalks, the things that you can control, not the things that I can control. And that's ultimately where I have a problem. Downtown's growing, downtown is developing. Is it where we want to be? Probably not. But can it be where we want to be? Absolutely. And I think the question you've all got to ask yourself is, how does this ordinance try to conform with the vision of what we want Stephenville to be? What's the problem in downtown Stephenville? The problem is not we've got rogue buildings down there that make our square look not very pretty. The problem is we have a lack of funding. We have a lack of traffic. We have things the city can control that we're not controlling. We've decided not to control. And that's where the problem is. It's not the property owners. It's not those that have a financial interest and stake in what there is to gain. It's the things that we can control. We need to do a better job of controlling. I just ask you all to go and think about those things. Think about what the vision is. And the vision's not sitting here creating a panel of 5 people that are going to control it. I don't think it's fair for us to sit here and have to decide that we're going to create an ordinance and then decide the rules, the regulations later. I know Randy believes that to be true, and he's probably correct. I don't doubt him on that. And likewise, I think it's hard to do that. As Steve told y'all, and Steve, tell me if I'm wrong, you argued about an opt-out process, but I don't think that's in the proposed ordinance. Where did Steve go? Is that more in the rules and regulations probably as proposed later down the road? So that's what I ask y'all to consider, and I would ask you not to vote in favor of this, please.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who wants to come speak in favor or in opposition to the project, the proposal? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing and consider a motion.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Mayor, before we do the motion, I'd like to mention a couple of things.
Okay.
First of all, just to clarify, because this came out of the Development Services Committee and was sent directly to the Planning Commission, as it was supposed to have been. It was done by the way the state statute is written, i.e., it has to be, the reason that you can do the 75%, it's not in this, it's in the state statute that says that anyone can opt out of it. With regard to going through, it seems very cumbersome, and it is very cumbersome, because the legislature set it up to be very cumbersome, very difficult to get it to do. And that's why you have to go through all of these different ramifications in order to do it. The key thing here, I think, is we've had quite a few people that have said that they were not, and they didn't feel like that this was the right way to do it. And I have to believe that they're very honest and agree to that. And I think there's probably other ways that we can encourage growth and development in the downtown area, as well as creating an atmosphere where you are protecting the historical character. We have lost a lot of historical buildings in this community, frankly. Some were just magnificent buildings. What you see across the street was all beautiful brick buildings, had a majestic theater, J.C. Penney's, everything else out there, and now it's parking lot. Over here on the other side, in fact, the other side of Brady's place, as a matter of fact, there was a jail, frankly, for Erath County that looked like a castle. It was a magnificent looking facility. It's gone now. There were other buildings. There was one that was the Higginbotham Brothers building right on the square. It's gone now. It's the Don Jones Center that the county has. So there were a lot of things that we had here in the past that were historical looking, that would attract people. It is called historic tourism, frankly. And other communities have made use of that. Granbury has been one of them, as a matter of fact. They started this process in this region around here. But there are about 61 different cities that have done it. One of the things that I felt like was when listening to planning and zoning, disheartening when a question was asked by the chairman of planning and zoning if it was felt that someone could own a historical building and do whatever they wanted to with that building, regardless of its historic nature, even if it was like the First National Bank building, it's got a historical mark on it. And the answer by one of the people on the planning and zoning was, well, if they want to tear it down, they can tear it down. Put up any kind of thing they want to there. That takes away historical character of the community. But, and right now, there is nothing to stop anybody from doing that. And that's okay, if that's the way we want it as a community. We also can say, so as a city council, I think we have to look at, just how far do we take it? You can do away with all zoning in a community. If we want to completely be libertarian about it and say, you can put whatever you want to, whenever it's your property, you can do it. But how many of you would like to do that? We just had a major discussion on this council and through the planning and zoning over a 50-acre parcel of property that a fellow owned that wanted to put apartments on it. And he withdrew it because of the opposition to that property. But it was his property. Are we saying he can't do that? Communities have to make those kind of decisions all the time, just like we did, like this council did on the new development on the north side of town and everything. If we had, because this community and this council felt like that was important. So it is all of those type of things. Do you want to live in a Houston that has no zoning at all? Or do you want to live where you're trying to use common sense type of approach to it? Not to give 5 people the ultimate authority. That's not true. It doesn't. The council has the last authority on everything. And appeals can be made to the council on anything. So anyway, with that having said my say, Mr. Mayor, I move that we concur with the Planning and Zoning Commission in this particular instance, and that we take this ordinance no further and effectively remove it.
I have a motion, I hear a second.
Second.
I have a motion, second, further discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thanks, sir.
As a follow-up, can I say
Yeah.
one more thing?
Yes, sir, you can.
What we will try to do, and what we will see, if we can do, is to take what has been expressed here tonight and in previous meetings and in the letters, and see if we can take a different approach. That may be an incentivizing approach. And Brady, I think you mentioned this earlier too. In fact, for the planning and zoning, looking at different ways that maybe can be accomplished the same way without feeling like it's Big Brother stepping on somebody's neck and forcing something to be done. And if we can do that and we can be successful at it, then that's probably the right direction to go for the community. So expect that to happen and will be considered and discussed over the next 2 to 3 months. And I'd like to express appreciation to Steve Killen and to Randy for their work on trying to put this together for us and to navigate this new state law that makes this a very onerous process and everything. So thank you. And thank you, Mayor.
Sir, Mr. Killen, back to number 8. We're going to take the rest of it in order.
Thank you, Mayor. This is case RZ 2024-014. Craig and Lisa Welch are requesting to rezone a property at 432 Collins. This is in the Milliken and Ott Addition, Block 1, Lot 1B and 2B of the city of Stephenville, Erath County, Texas, wanting to change the zoning from R1 Single Family to R2.5 Integrated Housing. The Planning and Zoning Commission convened on October 16th and by a unanimous vote of 7-0 recommended the City Council approve the request. They also granted a conditional approval for a replat. If this project, if the rezoning is approved, this property will actually, it touches another property, and those two will be combined to allow for the configuration of the development. What the person is wanting to do is either build townhomes or 2 to 4 family units. And with that, Mayor, I'd be glad to answer any questions. Again, the current zoning is R1, we want to change to R2.5 integrated housing. I do have in there what the new future land use is according to the comprehensive plan. This would be considered town center mixed use, which encourages residential, purpose-built student housing, offices, retail, recreational at higher densities. So it would fall in line with what the new comprehensive plan endorses for this area. And again, the integrated housing was created to allow for the development of properties such as this, where the lot dimensions don't really allow for the typical single-family construction in the area. So with that, Mayor and Council, be glad to answer any questions. Thank you.
Questions for Steve? Hearing none, we'll enter a public hearing. See if anyone would like to speak in favor or in opposition to the request. Is the applicant here?
I do not see
Okay.
the applicant.
So we're in a public hearing. Want to come speak in favor and opposition? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing and consider case number RZ 2024-014. Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve ordinance number 2024-031.
Second.
Have a motion, a second, further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next item, Steve.
Thank you, Mayor. Very similar to the previous case. This is at 981 Clinton. It's RZ 2024-015. This is Solid Ace Holdings LLC, requesting a rezone of the property at 981 Clinton. This is Kite Second Edition, Block 2, Lot 10A, and City Edition, Block 99, Lot 1B. From R1 to R2.5, the Planning and Zoning Commission convened on October 16th and by unanimous vote of 7-0 recommended the City Council approve the rezoning request. The applicant is requesting this for an intended project that has not been determined, but typically Solid Ace Holdings builds duplex-style housing, sometimes into the fourplex-style housing. Be glad to answer any questions.
Questions for Steve?
Mr. Killen, the location of the previous rezone was close to an existing apartment complex, I'm gonna call it, multi-buildings with multi-residents in each building. This one, however, is in a single-family area. I drove around it, and it seemed to be predominantly, if not all, the surrounding lots and area were single-family. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that is correct. And I answered your question, but I'm sure you're wanting a little more explanation than that. So, but I don't want to expound on it unless you're asking me to.
Well, and my question is, this R2.5 zoning opens some doors to some of these areas, and it concerns me in some cases because of the mix of R1 and then multifamily, especially in some of the older neighborhoods. I know some of the lot sizes and some of the other restraints that we've had in the past have created some problems for development in some of these areas, specifically like this one. The other one, because of the proximity to the apartments, seem to be more compatible to me than this one does because of that. And I will tell you, and I'll admit to the mayor that I'm old school. When I look at zoning, I think of divisions and I think of like uses of property being in an area, and this, I know that we created this to help with some issues like this perhaps, and the other ones seem to fit, but this one to me does not seem to fit as well. And I'm concerned about that because I don't want our housing to deteriorate to the level that people are afraid to buy or renovate R1 housing because they don't have confidence that that integrity of that neighborhood will be maintained. And I'm as I told you, I'm not complaining at you, about you, or the department. It's just a statement that I'm concerned about, and I think we as a council, planning and zoning has obviously approved it, but I think we as a council need to be mindful of that and need to look at the neighborhood specifically and each parcel specifically to determine what we do with it.
Yes, sir. Would you like me to respond?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, not being facetious, but the other project you mentioned was not a good fit either before that apartment or the townhomes were placed there, which was approved as a planned development. So that just came online. Before that, it was a dilapidated structure relating to some rail head at some point in the community. So the R2.5 zoning, when that zoning was approved, it was approved for a couple of different reasons, but one of the driving forces behind that was we have R3 zoning, as you see in that picture, pocketed throughout some of these areas that are predominantly single-family right now. So when we would bring a project that would be R3 with a density of 24 units per acre, and then several other permitted uses in there that might be even more invasive than the R3 project itself, the multifamily project, people would be alarmed by that, and they would come to us and want to talk to P&Z and council about trying to stop the project. We recognize that. City council instructed staff to come up with a solution, and one thing that we did was this integrated housing project, which pulled the townhomes out of the R3 zoning. It pulled patio homes out of the R3 zoning. It made the lot dimensions much smaller, and it was going to be on a case-by-case basis throughout the city, because what we need is some housing opportunities for many of our citizens on these smaller lots. And this would allow us to approach some of those with an affordability approach that maybe we didn't have before, and also in a less invasive manner than we would with the R3 24 units per acre. And so the R2.5 was never assigned a specific district in the city. It was designed so we would know that we had an option to bring to you on a case-by-case basis to see if we could find a solution. Many of these R1 lots don't even meet the minimum dimensions for R1 zoning. And so if they come to us with the project, they don't meet the dimensions, we force them to Board of Adjustment, or we can recommend to them that they build a smaller type structure on a smaller type lot and not at the density that they could based on some of the other zoning types. So hopefully that addresses your comments.
Wasn't the first 2.5 on north of Ollie Street, or on Ollie, North Ollie, next to Fry?
Yes,
Like
sir.
3 acres or something. It was the same issue. Instead of running a high-rise apartment, which was what they were planning on, y'all came up with a plan to, and it was approved unanimously, I think.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Nix, I'd also like to mention, in both of these cases, Steve has mentioned that these cases comply with the new adopted comprehensive plan, which, as you can see, takes a more holistic look at neighborhoods and uses within neighborhoods. And now that we've adopted that, that's in conflict with our current land use ordinances, and so that'll be something that's coming. But if we adopt land use ordinances that look exactly like they do now, then our land use ordinances and our comp plan are gonna always be in conflict, because that was a year-long process in meetings with the public and advisory groups and those things, and everybody voted to specifically look at neighborhoods in a more rounded approach of multiple uses within a confined area. So, as it stands today, yes, that puts it in conflict with the current land use codes, which are very segmented, boundaried, like what you're talking about. but I guess it was evident kind of through that comprehensive plan process that folks wanted to take a different, start down the road of a different view of that, so.
Other questions? Hearing none, we'll enter in a public hearing on, to consider case number RZ 2024-05, is that correct? 15?
015.
015.
Yes, sir.
Anybody want to come speak in favor or in opposition to the application? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and consider approval of ordinance rezoning property located at 981 Clinton, parcel R30048, being an S4400 tonight, second edition, block 2, lot 10A, and city edition, block 99, lot 1B, to the city of Stephenville, Erath County, from R1 to integrated 2.5. Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve resolution number 2024-0-32, approving this rezoning request.
There, a second. Have a motion, a second. Other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion passes. Next item is, item 14.
Yes, sir. Asking for consideration to, or for revisions to the zoning ordinance applying to certain zoning districts relating to the limitation of occupancy of unrelated persons. On September 17th, the Development Services Committee voted to assign this proposed ordinance to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Planning and Zoning Commission convened on October 16th, and by unanimous vote recommended the City Council adopt the proposed revisions. These revisions will increase the number of unrelated persons in residential structures from 3 to 4. And that is basically the reason behind this proposal, is that we have many properties that we know across the city have more than 3 bedrooms, and they have more than 3 unrelated persons living in them. So that's an issue. And then we also, city manager has spoken with several developers, and they mentioned that in today's market, when you're buying lots at the price that they cost, and you're limiting the number of people that you can place in there to 3 instead of 4, then it cuts into that profit margin a little bit, makes it a little more difficult to be profitable for those type of financials. And so we did talk to multiple, received input from Randy Thomas and from some TML lawyers, and they say that 3 to 4 is a pretty reasonable approach, and it does fit well with the existing conditions within our city. And city manager may have additional comments on that. I'm trying to capture a lot of what he mentioned at the P&Z meeting, but I think that's it overall. And staff would recommend that this ordinance be approved in conjunction with the P&Z recommendation.
Questions for Steve? Here now we'll enter into a public hearing on the revision of zoning districts related to the limitation of occupancy by unrelated persons. Are anybody want to speak in favor or in opposition? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing and consider approval of ordinance revising certain zoning districts related to the limited occupancy by unrelated persons. Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Mayor? Mr. Mayor, I make the motion, we approve ordinance number 2024-0-33, amending the limitation of the occupancy of unrelated persons from 3 to 4.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion passes. Next item.
Mr. Mayor, Council, this is RZ 2024-16. Patrick Winley, representing the Stable Development, is requesting a rezone of property at 0 Wolf Nursery at the 20-acre development on Washington, Lot 1, to the city of Stephenville. You know this as the Stable Development. This property is directly across the street from Chick-fil-A. There's an opportunity there for a retailer to come to the city. It is currently currently industrial zoned, and the industrial district will allow for many uses, including restaurants, but it does not allow for retail within the district unless it's a shopping center. So by definition, a shopping center is 2 or more retail spaces. And so we needed to come to you for this ordinance revision, or I'm sorry, a rezone to the B2, retail and commercial. So tonight, with us, we have several representatives, two of which are on a Teams call watching this meeting, and that is Mr. David Rosnofsky. I'm going to kill this, Rosnofsky and Patrick Winley. And then we also have in the audience tonight Perry Thompson. He presented at the P&Z meeting. He is the architect for the project. And then we have Mr. Eric Snyder, who represents Los Aguilas, and he is here. Had an opportunity and the pleasure of meeting him earlier today. And if the council would allow it, I think you would really enjoy having a couple of minutes to let Mr. Snyder share with you his vision for this development moving forward in relation to this rezone request. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Questions for Steve? Would you like to come up and speak? He made it sound bated breath. We thought you might want to. By the way, tell Tom I said hi.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. My name is Eric Schneider, representing Los Aquilas, who is the site developer for this table. And anything I'd like to extend my appreciation on behalf of the organization for the consideration. We think we have a project in development, not a development here.
Go ahead and let it slip if you want to.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to know. Go ahead and let it slip.
But we definitely have work ahead of us, but to do that in sequential form, we're here tonight asking for your approval of a change of the zoning to allow for us to proceed. There will remain 4 empty lots, vacant lots. In full transparency, I've been with the organization 2.5 months, so I'm asking your patience as well as understanding that I'm not here to present a full plan for the remainder, but I do look forward to coming back to this wonderful city. It's my first time today, and I'm just overwhelmed by the support that I've received thus far, and as excited as I am to hopefully take back an approval tonight, I'm more excited to come back with the work that's still to be done, so thank you all.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just a comment about your organization. I had the opportunity, privilege to meet with the owner, Tom. And for those who don't know, he was the Mr. Waterburger. And so he's a great guy. I appreciate his investment in City of Stephenville. He asked me what he could do for City of Stephenville. I said, just bring a big check.
Yes. On behalf of Tom and the family, we thank you.
Well, tell him that I appreciate it. He's a great guy.
Definitely. Thank you, sir.
With that, I will enter into a public hearing. Oh, wait a minute, do we do? Yep, into a public hearing for case number RZ 2024-016. Do I have anybody want to speak in favor or in opposition to the request? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing and consider approval of ordinance rezoning property located at 0 Wolf Nursery Road, parcel 776139750, 20-acre development on Washington, Lot 1 to the City of Stephenville, Uvalde County, Texas, from industrial to retail and commercial business B2. Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move that we approve ordinance number 2024-0-35, changing the rezone for the parcel of property, the 20-acre parcel property in question.
It'll be ordinance 2024-0-34.
Excuse me, because we denied 34, so this could be 34. Good. So it's 2024-034, not 35.
Yes, sorry.
Okay, I have a second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion gladly passes. We're glad you're bringing your money to Stephenville, Texas. Thank you very much. Hope you're gonna stay the night. Are you taking me to lunch, Jeff?
We're going bar hopping tonight.
Okay.
As is the normal watch.
Just FYI, if you have not voted, you have 11 minutes to go vote.
Yes.
There's Jazz back behind here tonight.
It's one of the biggest elections in the history of America. Next item, Ms. Smith, Nominations Committee.
The Nominations Committee met on October 15th to discuss a change in the council's rules and procedures. Currently, the rules and procedures read that the mayor shall not serve as a non-voting member of any committee, and the mayor shall not serve as a chairman of any committee. I brought it to the committee that we make a revision to the rules and procedures to allow the mayor to vote on committee only to make a quorum. So if the mayor's vote completes the quorum to us, for us to proceed, then that's how we'd like to move forward, so.
Questions for Maddie? Hearing none, do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the changes to the council's rules and procedures.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Mr. Pard, Public Safety.
So on October 15th, we met and discussed, the Texas legislature has passed SB 1893, requiring political subdivisions to adopt a policy prohibiting the installation of TikTok or another covered application on any device owned or leased by the government entity. We agreed to move forward with this, and I believe if anybody has any questions, Chief Harris would gladly answer them.
Any questions for Chief? I think he says he's already implemented them. Hearing none, do I hear a motion to consider approval of the covered application prohibited technology policy?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we vote to approve the covered applications prohibited technology policy.
Have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, sir. Public Works, Mr. Nix, voting is up at 7 o'clock.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll do my best to get us out of here by 8. Public
Italian
Works.
doesn't happen in California until 10:30.
That's right. Public Works Committee met on 15 October, and we had several items on our agenda. The first item on our agenda was to discuss the annual expenditure with the Upper Leon River Municipal Water District for the city's allocation of water. This is a contract that we entered into in 1999, and it goes until 2049. It's an annual recurring expense. Because of the nature of the contract, Mr. Williams had included this amount in his budget for this year. The amount is $185,269. This is a direct pass-through to the Brazos River Authority. After discussion by the committee voted unanimously to send it to the council with a positive recommendation to authorize the payment of this expenditure. And Mr. Mayor, I would make a motion to recommend that staff be authorized to make the payment of $185,269 to the Brazos River Authority through the Upper Leon River Municipal Water District for the city's charge for the 24-25 budget.
Second.
Whew, got that in there, David. You just bated breath. Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
One item here. Could you please explain the length of term of this particular lease for the public, as well as is there any opportunity for us to receive any dollars back?
The length of the term of the contract that we're under is a 50-year contract from 1999 to 2049.
Okay.
And the second part of your question was what, Gerald? I'm sorry.
Is there an opportunity to lessen the impact of this to our budget, frankly, by leasing or selling the water rights to someone else?
In the past, we have had opportunities to sell some of that raw water to some of the irrigation farmers in that area, but that's on an as-needed basis. When they come to us and request, we're certainly more than willing to enter into the negotiations with them for the purchase of that water, which helps offset our expense in that case. But the contract is pretty specific on what we, the city, need to do. The other opportunities, when they have presented themselves in the past, the city has availed themselves of those to help recover some of those costs for us.
And is there an opportunity to do that this year, Nick? Is that a possibility?
I don't think we've been approached yet this year about that, and
Okay.
honestly, until the season gets farther along and they determine that they're gonna need that, they probably won't contact us on that.
Gerald, there is a developer
Thank
who
you.
asked me about, would we be willing to sell some of those water rights to a developer that produce water instead of having to drill water wells? And the answer Nick gave me was, yes, we'd be willing to consider that, but that's all for, it's been about 2 months.
That's what I was getting. Thank you very much.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next time, Mr. Nick.
Next item on our agenda was the discussion of the Texas Community Development Block Grant. As Mr. Williams presented earlier, we have the opportunity to request up to $750,000 from the CDBG grant firm with a $112,500 match on our part. That match was not required, but it was included to enhance our opportunity to receive the grant. We asked for presentations from several different companies. After reviewing those, Public Management came back with the best proposal for the city. After discussion, the committee voted to forward a positive recommendation to the council to contract with Public Management for their application on our behalf for the CDBG grant. There will be no expense to the city unless we receive the grant, and then if we accept the grant, then we will pay them a max out of pocket of $60,000. At this time, I would make the motion to enter into a contract with Public Management for their application for the CDBG grant on behalf of the city of Stephenville.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Next item on our agenda was the proposed annual rate adjustment from Waste Connections. They have had our service in the city of Stephenville for a number of years, and they came to us with a request for a 21.5% increase. Staff was able to negotiate with them and bring that down to 17.5%, which sounds significant, and it is, but considering the cost of equipment, the cost of fuel, the cost of disposal, and the cost of the other things, it was determined that it was a reasonable request. The bottom line on it would be a $2.44 increase per residential customer. After a significant amount of discussion, the committee agreed with staff's recommendation, and they've sent to council a unanimous recommendation to approve of that rate adjustment. And I would make the motion to authorize staff to enter into the contract with them to acknowledge that 17.5% increase as requested.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next item.
Last item on our agenda, Mayor, was a proposal for the design services for a new 1 million gallon ground storage tank at the Lillian Pump Station. That station was originally designed to have a second storage tank. There is an area that has been designated to use that. That pump station receives raw water from two of our well fields, Alexander and Bowman Ridge. The Providence Engineering firm submitted a proposal to provide the design and specs for that, as well as construction services if and when that contract is awarded. Their bid was $274,000 with a timeline of 9 months. Their estimate was another 18 months for bid and construction for that project after their design was approved. The committee voted unanimously again to forward a positive recommendation to the council, and I would make a motion to enter into an agreement with Providence Engineering to begin the design work on the 1 million gallon ground storage tank at the Lillian Pump Station for an amount of $274,000.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
That concludes my report, Mayor. Thank you.
Appreciate your speed. Monica, financial report. And quarterly investment report.
Can I point out one thing, that Alan was done in time for you to vote if you had to?
Good job, Alan.
I did my best. Thank you, Leanne.
You're good, Mr. Nix. You were done in time to.
with 10 seconds to spare.
We reviewed financial statements for the month ending September 30th, 2024, which is also the end of the fiscal year. Again, our financial indicators are overall as or better than we anticipated. We received $13,000 in property tax in the month of September, which resulted in $289,000 increase over the funds collected last fiscal year to date. It's 102% of our budget, which is about $119,000 more than we had anticipated. For our sales tax, we received $764,000 in September, resulting in $257,000 or 2.7% more than the funds collected last fiscal year to date. The amount collected is 102% of our budget, which is $256 higher than we anticipated. Of the $46 million revenue received to date, 52% was received in our general fund, 27% received in our wastewater fund, 7% was received in our capital projects fund, and 4% was received in the landfill fund. We received 102% of the total budgeted revenue through September, which is $501,000 more than anticipated, and that was mainly due to taxes. We received $4.4 million less revenue than September than the last fiscal year to date, and that was due to debt proceeds and intergovernmental revenue that was received in the prior year that was non-recurring in this fiscal year. Of the $55 million spent to date, 45% was expended in the water wastewater fund, 41% was expended in the general fund, 4% was expended in our capital projects fund, and 2% was expended in our debt service, stormwater drainage fund, airport fund, and landfill funds. We've expended 69% of our total budgeted expenditures through September, which is $23 million less than anticipated, and that's due to personnel, contractual, and the bulk of it was capital outlay for ongoing projects. We've spent $7.5 million less on expenditures through September than last fiscal year to date, and that's due to our capital outlay. CEDA has received an overall 109% of their budgeted revenue through September, which is $28,000 more than last fiscal year to date and $67,000 more than anticipated. CEDA has spent an overall 77% of their budgeted expenditures through September, which is $436,000 more than last fiscal year to date, and that's due to their capital outlay, and $392,000 less than anticipated, and that's due to grant disbursements.
Questions? Bank Command Investment Report.
The city's total market value of our cash and investments on September 30th was $45,132,450. It's allocated 8% in our demand accounts, 1% in cash and money market accounts, 5% in our certificates of deposit, 38% in TechStar investment pool, and 50% in our TexPool investment pool. We earned $611,000 in interest for the quarter. The average yield to maturity on all of our account types for the quarter was 5.11%. The average yield to maturity for just our investment accounts was 5.3%. We compare that to the average yield to maturity on a 3-month treasury bill for the quarter, and that was 5.01%. So we're doing a little bit more than our benchmark. The weighted average maturity in days of our portfolio was 7.26 days. So with having as much as we have in our investment pools, we're very liquid.
Questions for Monica? You know, I have a very conservative portfolio, and I got 14%.
I know, but we can't invest in the stock markets, so.
That may be something Ms. Smith needs to put on our agenda for legislative change.
Yeah, you have to get the legislature to change that.
We may
for
need to
us.
address that issue. I mean, we just think we got 600,000, you said, for the quarter?
Yeah.
Return, and if it had been twice that, could have been $1 million too. That's, or more. Anyway,
Make a
all right.
change.
We need to make a change there, Maddie. Thank you very much, as always. Mr. Sanford has agreed that since everybody's wanting to go back and look at CNN and watch the news, watch the election news.
Does the election not feel like we're in divorce court waiting to see who gets custody of us?
There you go, there you go. Mr. Sanford said he has one item announcement he wants to make.
Before that, I just want to say that first, I come from a middle-class family. Sorry. I'm going to skip all the extra stuff. I have actually 1.5 things. One, I just want to say that the Career Club, and this is germane to the second point, started again. We had our first tours with our kids. A reminder to everyone that people who go through our 9-month program with the Career Club automatically get an offer of work here in Stephenville, Texas, based on, or from the generosity of those partners that we have that participate in our program. So it's a pretty good thing. And it's the only program in the state of Texas that does that, by the way. Just want to make that clear.
Thank you, Ashley.
The reason I wanted to come up here was because our own Schreiber Foods, who is also one of our partners, was nominated and is a finalist by the Texas Workforce Commission for Large Employer of the Year for the entire state of Texas. And so there will be a celebration in December in Grapevine, where they will go, and we'll join them as well. But as y'all remember, CETA helped with their expansion of a 300,000 square foot facility, which was their cold storage and logistics facility, and it added several jobs, high-paying jobs, I should add, to their portfolio. And that was, by the way, a generational decision by corporate for them to stay here longer. Anytime they invest that much in a community, that means they're going to be here for a long, long while. So we were happy to be a part of that. So I just wanted to make everybody aware that this is big news for one of our very own here. I know they didn't originate here, but they've been here a while, and they continue to commit and to invest in our community. So
Just FYI, our HR director at Rock House was the plant opener for that facility.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's nice. Very good.
They
Thank
did
you.
a good job training her.
Yeah. And I do have the election results. Thanks.
Okay. You'll be back December the 3rd, right? Okay, everybody get ready for that. Okay.
Oh, be ready.
There you go. Next item is consent agenda. Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I make the motion, we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Comments by city manager.
Mr. Mayor, council, city offices will be closed Monday, November 11th in observance of Veterans Day, and also be closed on the 28th and 29th of this month for Thanksgiving. And on the 19th, we'll have committee meetings and work sessions. Thank you.
Leanne.
I have a couple of things. First off, I wanted to congratulate the Stephenville Main Street. They won the 4th place for our planters out here for the competition was with Earth Planters, so that's awesome. We all love those planters. Second, Friday night, the downtown merchants are having their holiday open house from 5:30 to 8. So come enjoy lots of shopping, and if you haven't noticed, our photo pods are out. The cactus is amazing. They're all amazing, but I love the new cactus over by Moolah. Next week, JJ Hampton, one of our lifelong wonderful hometown girls, is being inducted into the National Cowgirl Hall of Fame. So a group of us is going to that. Excited about that. And want to say thank you to the citizens that have come and spoke out at the P&Z and at council, and we appreciate that very much. And last but not least, I want to wish Sarah a very, very happy birthday. Thank you for taking care of all of us. None of us would be up here and taken care of if it wasn't without you. So thank you.
Cheryl.
Nothing, sir.
Dean.
Just congratulations, Yellow Jackets. We got one more game coming up. Love seeing them beat Brownwood, especially a shutout last time from Memorial Stadium. I'm excited that we're moving away from Memorial Stadium and moving into our new home. That's all I got.
Maddie.
First off, I want you to thank all the volunteer coaches from the SPARD Fall Sports, all the men and women who served as football and volleyball coaches. They do that out of the goodness of their heart, and it's really appreciated that they do volunteer. I'd also like to thank the Parks Department because last Wednesday, the Steveville Athletic Booster Club and ISD hosted our annual Burn the Wood bonfire there in the park. And I just want to thank them for all their hard work for setup and takedown, as well as the fire department and police department who were there all night with us as we watched it burn and watched it continue to burn and then continue to burn. It does. It went on forever. I'd also like to take a minute to thank all the men and women who served our country and wish them all a happy Veterans Day, and from my family to yours, happy Thanksgiving.
David.
Everybody says everything before they get to me.
That's what you get for going
I
from
tell you.
6.
The Brownwood game was very good game. Brownwood games are so rough. My daughter got a black eye cheerleading there. game, so just throwing that out there.
But we still won.
But we still won. We still
Four to
won.
nothing.
Yes.
Who did she tackle?
I don't know what happened. Happy birthday, Sarah. Hope you enjoy it, and we get to stay with you a little bit longer tonight. So, happy birthday.
Brandon.
I'd like to jump on the Brownwood train. And congratulations to Coach Art Browse and Coach Mike Copeland for the honor they got naming the new field and stadiums after them. And happy birthday to Sarah.
Mr. King, do we have a service on the square on next Monday?
As far as I know, Chief?
Yes.
At
11 o'clock.
I thought that we had one every year there, and I want to encourage people to come if they have not come. It's such an important thing to remember our service members who have given so much to our nation, and we need to remember them, and that's an opportunity to do so. That it used to be Armistice Day, and I'm showing my age, and I'm not near as old as the mayor, but I'm still showing my age. But
90 days.
it is what it is. But I want to encourage people to come and enjoy that, because it's a moving service and a ceremony, and I think more people would appreciate it if they would come to that. And I also would like to wish Sarah a happy birthday. She in 29 looks good on you. That's all I can say. Thank you, Mayor.
Only thing I want to mention is you saw Los Aguilas here tonight. They've invested lots of money. We've got a lot of great property tax money out of them, a lot of sales tax money out of the project they've done so far. This new project will be a boom to the city of Stephenville as well. I'm excited about that, and I want to say thanks to Jeff and Ashley, to Steve and Jason for what they do to help bring business to town. You mentioned the cheese plant, and that you see all along of 281 development there. There's another project behind that will be coming up soon, 2 of them. And we have other projects going on that Sarah Vandenberg, I can't tell you what they are, but big deals coming to town. Just to give you an idea, Stephenville has our sales tax, gives you an idea of how well our economy's growing, has almost doubled in the last 7 years, and which means our economy is afire. There has been a slowdown a little bit, which the national economy is doing that, and depending on how the election turns out tonight, that may even go drill baby drill. So we did hear some bad news tonight, so about business in town, but that's the way it is. Anyway, with that, I want to say thanks to all y'all, the hard work you do, because it's hard when everybody's saying, okay, tell me, now who is that? And it's hard to do that, but also to make sure people get what they need. I appreciate your working with the developers on how do I make this work. When I came here originally, that wasn't necessarily how we did business, and you're doing that now, and I appreciate that, you and Jason, a lot. So thank you for what y'all do. And with that, we're going to, in compliance with the provisions of the Texas Open Meetings Law, Subchapter D, Government Code, Vernon's Texas Code, annotated in accordance with Section 551.074, personal matters, to deliver the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of public officer or employee for those people listed, and we're not firing any of them, so don't get that. It's not that. We'll be back and consult with attorney on over pending contemplated litigation. We will be back. into the regular city council meeting. Is there anything to be discussed from executive session?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve merit step increases for eligible employees as discussed in executive session.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
You don't-
I was so far away, so.
Okay, there you go. Motion passes. It is 7:39, and we will stand adjourned. There's no more items on the agenda. Thank you very much for being here.